Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Pivotal Podspective. And thank God I have my co-host back, the wonderful Adrian Dorobantu.
Thank you, Elliot. Good to see you.
Of course, I'm your host as well, Elliot Brown. Listen, you are here with us. Thanks very much for joining us this evening. And I know there's been a few problems with Facebook. So if you are finding a problem with Facebook and with finding this, I'm hoping you can catch up with us later in the show. If you watch this back afterwards, then put hashtag replay. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the show and you can catch us. Let us know you're watching so we know that Facebook is working by give us some love hearts and some thumbs up, or drop some comments in the box, and for our guests as well. And of course, we have got wonderful guest extraordinaires this evening, haven't we, Adrian?
Exactly. Do you want to tell the audience what type of guests are we having tonight?
Yeah, I will. Well, we're going to start alphabetically with JJ Reynolds, who is a measurement marketer. What's a measurement marketer, Adrian?
Well, I've asked JJ before, just before we started the show. So basically just takes every aspect of your websites and try to understand what works, what doesn't work, where people stop reading or when people stop scrolling. So it's analytical like me. I think we're going to have a very good discussion with JJ.
Very, very cool. And Nicole Sutton. Now, she is a success and mindset coach. I think maybe not be the phrase that she would use, but I think it's pretty close. And has an extraordinary background in the education system in prisons. So listen, that's a great place to pick up some psychology, I would have thought. And we're going to find out more from Nicole, aren't we?
Exactly, yeah. So Nicole, she worked in prisons for a while. She had the chance to turn out some prisons through the education systems, and she definitely worked, I think, with loads of people that had the imposter syndrome. That's the perfect place to get a imposter syndrome, to be honest.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And that's why we've headed this show. We've headlined the show online and offline presence, because it's very much about the presence you have offline and how you put that out to people, and online presence, which is where JJ helps out with websites and branding and messaging, etc. Okay, great. Well, listen, let's crack on with the show. If you are only watching this, then you can check this out as a podcast. Carry on watching. We're going to let you know some details later on about how you can catch this as an audio podcast as well. And if you do, please drop some comments in below. And if you love what we're doing, give us some love hearts and some thumbs up as well. Without further ado, let's bring on our first extraordinaire, JJ Reynolds.
Well, hello.
Hey, JJ.
Hey, doing all right. Good. Love that intro there.
You like that? You like that bit? Good. We've done something right so far, then, eh?
3 minutes in and you've already crushed it. So yeah.
Listen, I've got to ask you before we crack on. You like bikes, do you? You like riding a bike? You've got them hung on the wall. Is this just for decoration?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of biking. I do mountain biking, road cycling, all of those things. And there was no other space in my apartment, so I was hung in the back behind my office here. So it also is a great conversation starter for any new clients.
Yeah. So you haven't bought your place like that with those bikes? They
didn't come pre-installed. No, sorry.
Listen, the mountain biking I get, but road biking, dude, in the UK, they're hated. I mean, where I live, we get them around here on a Sunday morning very, very early. And I say that's bad, isn't it? That's like prejudice. It's like bike prejudice.
It's not. It's just because you have narrow roads in UK.
Yeah, we
and go. Obviously, cyclists are taking loads of space over there, and sometimes they're quite rude.
Yeah. In Portland, Oregon, like where I'm really close to, it's actually one of the most bike-friendly cities, at least in the United States. So yeah, that's a big plus for being road biking out here.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, JJ, I mean, first of all, my measurement marketer. Now, we were chatting before the show. I love the fact that we all come up with these names now, don't we? Because we want to make an impact and get somebody to ask the question. Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. A measurement marketer, without going into too much detail, because we understand that you do websites and it's very much about the branding messages. but how did you come up with that name?
Yeah, so it's actually like not a name that I coined at all. It's actually like a term that when you look at the entire ecosystem of, say, a business, and you're looking at overall, not just a specific metric and like data analyst, you're looking at the overall like journey of the customer. It's one of those types of terms. I think it's going to be on the rise in the coming years, but I think about a year and a half ago it was coined by Chris Mercer, who's over a company called Measurement Marketing .io. So that's where the term originated from. But really, it's just like looking at the entire ecosystem as opposed to just saying like, oh, what is this one thing that we're trying to move? Like revenue, for example. Like, what's the journey to get there? Because revenue just isn't growing itself.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I mean, Adrian, you've analytically wise, right? You're really into this. So I mean, you and JJ.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why I would like to go straight into the things, So, what do you do? How do you do it? Why do you do it? And stuff like that. So, if I would be a customer and I would come to you, hey, help me measure my website. How? Why?
Yeah. Well, I think what happens oftentimes is someone who either starts a business or even some like 7-8 figure businesses will have revenue coming in the door because they have a great product or they have a great service that they're offering, and they happen to have some great like public relations or a blog, and they just keep going up and up and up, and then one month it goes down, and they're like, what happened? And they have no concept of like what was actually happening. They just know that revenue was going up, like we were getting more hits, more users, more everything, but there was no ecosystem for like looking and projecting like, hey, this many things happened this month, what do we think is going to happen next month? And that's kind of where like I come into the picture. I originally worked with content creation. I was a videographer for a while. And I realized after a while that nobody had a clue what to do with the video. Like they were like, we have these videos, awesome. Let's put them on Facebook, let's put them on the website, but that was it. And then I went from there. I was like, that's so stupid. Like we have to do something more than that. So then I got into paid advertising. And so I worked at an agency for a couple of years in like doing high spend accounts. And we were spending tons and tons of money. And then I realized that the business owners had no idea of what was actually happening with the spend. Like we were saying, we're doing great, but like everybody tells you they do a great job.
And is it measurable?
Exactly. And so that's like, now I'm kind of moving into like, I've been doing this for the past like couple of years, is just into the measurement piece. We kind of partner with your company and work as a third party. So for example, doubling KPIs, metrics from your vendors, if you're doing paid ads or in-house team, help you create those systems for tracking and knowing what is and isn't working. And then deliver reports based on what you're trying to do and the type of business that you are running. So that's kind of like the full synopsis of like the past, I don't know, decade or so, crunched down into 3 minutes here.
Okay, and what out of curiosity, what platforms are you working with? So you can do that, especially, just before the show, you told me something like if you have a blog and you put an article over there, you can measure exactly at the point where people stop, like the percentage on the page where people stop. What platform do you use over there? I suppose obviously WordPress, I'm not sure, Shopify sites, or what do you work with?
Yeah, most of the time we use Google Analytics suite. So we use Google Tag Manager, which is like how you listen for people that don't know, it's how you listen for what's actually happening on the website. And then you can tell other platforms like Google Analytics, Facebook advertising, Facebook Analytics, what actually happens. So it's like a combination of your Google tools and like Facebook and whatever other platforms like your company uses, right? So some companies are big into Pinterest for blog traffic. We want to make sure that we have like the correct pixel for Pinterest, documenting what we think is valuable actions on the website, and also know what we think. The biggest thing that like we like to say is what do you think is going to happen versus what actually happens, because it's really easy to be like, hey, we're gonna do this really great initiative, and you do it, and then this thing happens and you're like, awesome. But like if you expected to make $1 million by generating 20 new blog posts per week and you only make $100,000, that's a failure. Like it's a big failure. As opposed to the other way around. If you expected to make $100,000 and you made $1 million, you're like, let's just go buy everything because this is awesome. So that's kind of like the big framework that we like to get most people into, beyond the actual technical like capabilities of tools.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So Google Tag Manager is your main, let's say your main brain over there. Okay, cool. Just because I'm asking, for people that don't know, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, JJ, but you can measure those things, like some of those things. Like I use Facebook. I do Facebook ads, for my customers, and I have the Facebook pixel. I have my own dashboard created there with my own custom fields and stuff like that. And I measure all the ROAS, all the click links, cost per click link, and all those kind of things over there. But I suppose what you do, you just combine all the platforms into Google Tag Manager. That's right?
Yeah, we combine all of them into Tool Tag Manager, but the more important thing is just knowing what you're actually optimizing for. For example, people that do run paid ads to, let's just say, an e-commerce, you're selling, let's say, a cup, for example, for the sake of simplicity.
Yeah.
You run your traffic.
Stirring mug we like to have on the show.
Yes, exactly. You have the mug there, and so you run your traffic. 1,000 people go to your website, and let's say 10 people buy, and they buy and they spend $10,000 on your mugs because you're awesome. What did the other like 900 people do that didn't buy anything? And that's the biggest point of like looking at. Whereas most people that implement, say, Facebook ads, they just look at the end result. They look at how many people actually got us revenue.
Yeah.
But in actuality, there's all these other pieces. Like if you sent them to a product page, did they view all of your images, or did they just leave, right? If they're viewing your images and not buying, maybe you need better images. Maybe you need better copy on the page. And those are the kind of metrics that we really like to work with clients to have them a better understanding that it's not just the end result to measure of revenue and whatever the overall goal is. You have to measure the pieces incrementally to get there.
Yeah, get that. Very quickly, we've got a listener, our number one fan, my mum, come say hello to us all. Big love to your mum from Spain. Yeah, I get that. I think actually, I know you like that side as well, don't you, Adrian? With the sort of looking at the bit that you've missed, that most people miss. It's quite important to focus on that bit and find out why they didn't buy or why they weren't attracted, and look at that data. Adrian, love this side of things.
Yeah, and not just that, but sometimes, for example, if you do a massive change or you do multiple changes, at once, you'll never know which was the change that actually triggered the best result. So
exactly,
that's why having it like that, I think it's better, to just take every detail and change it once at a time and see exactly and analyze it and do it again and stuff like this.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah.
Well, listen, I for one, definitely a lot clearer now what a measurement marketer is, and you are definitely measuring that marketing in all sorts of different ways. Well, listen, JJ, we're going to bring Nicole on and have a little chat with her. So, if you don't mind retiring to the green room, we'll be back with you in about 10 minutes. Is that okay?
Sounds like a plan. It was nice talking with you guys.
Great stuff.
Thanks, JJ.
Well, listen, I definitely know a little bit more about that now, and I like the way he's thinking. He's creative, and actually, he's thinking outside of that box, isn't he? Outside of that sort of box that you put out there.
Exactly, and just it's another proof again that data is king. Usually,
Yeah.
You just need to look into data all the time and analyze it, improve it, and test it, and then analyze it again.
Definitely. Well, listen, very different subject matter now, but just as important, just as pivotal, is working on your mindset and success, and definitely overcoming imposter syndrome. And so let's bring on our second guest, Nicole Sutton.
Hello, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hey guys, how are you?
Well, amazing.
Good. JJ was very interesting. I might have to hire him.
Well, you see, that's exactly why we put you together. We've done some analysis for both of you.
Adrian's already telling me I need some support with my website. Huh?
It was just a subtle hint, it was nothing else.
Hey, listen. I mean, look, you're doing what you're doing, Nicole. We started having a chat before we recorded, and you've definitely pivoted, haven't you, in the last 6 months, with what you're doing, from having a background of years in education and in the prison world, in reform, let's call it. It's definitely reform, I think, and it's great. There's a I'm not being funny, but there's a lot of entrepreneurs that spring out of reform these days. In fact, we know of an American podcaster who in essence works. His whole thing is about what he learned from doing a few years inside and coming out. So listen, Nicole, you've gone into coaching this year, and you're using all of that experience in the psychology and bits and pieces like that. Imposter syndrome. We've got to get straight in there, because Adrian knows that I've had it. In fact,
I think everyone had it. Let's be honest. I don't think everyone that's an entrepreneur wants to start a business at any point, or maybe not even a business, but even going for a job interview or something. They thought that I'm not good enough for that, or maybe why the hell they'll take me?
Yeah. So what's your thing? How do you work with somebody that does have that? And it's this can level you. This can stop you from doing things, can't it?
It can. I mean, it links very closely to self-esteem and obviously self-confidence.
Of course.
And with that mix comes a lot of anxiety and a lot of tension within the individual. And the imposter is that negative nagging voice that's inside your head.
Yeah.
The one that's always saying, you can't do this. You're not good enough. You've been faking it for too long now. Someone's going to figure you out,
Yeah.
And alongside that is the elements of actually being confident in yourself to begin with. So what I do with my clients is I work with them to understand where these kind of barriers, self-limiting beliefs come from, so that we can then really take action and smash it out of the park, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I mean, a couple of my clients I've got at the moment are absolutely nailing it, and it's so amazing to see.
I love that,
because they've gone from I'm not sure about this, and then they're making decisions without even hearing that voice, and really moving on with things. So it's really inspiring to see people overcome that inner voice that prohibits them from taking action.
Yeah.
So that's generally what I do. Get them in the right frame of mind and get them going.
And I've got to ask, because I did sort of say before we started recording, but seeing the psychology and the way people are in a confined space, like like a prison or anything, when you confine in spaces like that, it enhances the psychology. You see a lot more. I think the emotions are there. Did you learn a lot of how to deal with it? Because although you're in a confined space, people have got to step outside of their cell. And that's as bad as stepping outside of a front door and putting yourself out there business-wise in that world, right? So is that one of the things that sort of made you look at the psychology of humans generally and think about how you can work with people to overcome certain things? And did you do that when you were there? I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, you're always looking to try. I mean, trying to engage prisoners into education is a barrier in itself. Most have an issue with previous education that they've experienced. So you kind of always coaching the guys and the women, and you literally just keep it on and on and on, reassuring and trying to get them to that next point.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, my job was very, very much managing my team to be able to enable those guys.
Right.
So I would spend a lot of time, trying to get creative with things, an English class with worksheets. I mean, that just doesn't appeal to me. These guys that you've got to do something different. You've got to make it creative. You've got to get them out of their seats.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that inspired me, is that I work with some absolutely amazing colleagues, female colleagues in particular, and they were that amazing, but they still had this, why have you given me this job? And I was like, I don't get it. you've done this, you've created a masterpiece on the whole of the department, and you still don't believe you're good enough. And I'm like, it confused me. So it was a lot around seeing the difficulties with prisoners, but it was also seeing amazingly successful and strong women actually not believe that they were good enough.
Sure.
And this is why I'm kind of doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about, we've spoken about this quite a lot since I've got to know Adrian, about, that feeling, and, about getting in front, whether it's getting on a stage, whether it's making a phone call, whether it's going for a job interview. We were talking about this just, weren't we? I mean, it's a strange thing. You were saying, Adrian, you think there's a lot of people that don't necessarily even realize that it's a thing, right?
Exactly, yeah. So let's say maybe from where I come from, Romania, and some of the Romanian people, or let's say people in the countries maybe not that open about things, they don't know what's an imposter syndrome. It's they never thought that might be such a thing, right? They just live with that thing. I'm not good enough, or and that's why I wanted to ask you, leaving aside maybe the imposter syndrome, which it is in general terms and all that, but I'm curious to know if this usually comes from, or what would be the source of that. It's just because no one really told you since you were a child, the fact that, I don't know, good job, Nicole, you've done something good now, you should really be proud of that, or what's the main reason?
I think it's looking at, well, there's a number of factors. I think, you've got family, you've got friends, you've got your whole kind of story, haven't you?
It's your whole ecosystem and your whole life, basically, up to a point. Okay.
Yeah. And your story is, well, your story is unique to you, but it's then how you interpret that and how you might have to change what your story is to get a more positive outcome. I've experienced imposter syndrome. After I'd spent quite a bit of time in the prisons, I got to a point where I just literally hit a wall, and I was like, I'm no good. I can't do this. What's happened to me? I'm the one at the front all the time. The action taker, the warrior. All hands on deck. Let's go. And I've never experienced anything like it before in my life. And to get yourself to that point and then be able to take the actions, the small steps, because that's what it is a lot of the time, is be grateful for what you got, cherish those achievements, look at all of the successes you've ever had, and start building up that confidence again. Because if you can't build that confidence, the imposter's always going to be coming back at you. And if you've got high levels of self-esteem and confidence, the likelihood is you'll hear it, but you'll go, nah, get out, off you go. And then that's when you're at a point that you're managing that imposter and you're able to move forward confidently.
Yeah. Yeah, well, listen, I think we're going to dive into a bit more of this, and we'll bring JJ on and carry on with this conversation, because I think there's all sorts of different sides to this, which I'm intrigued to see where we go with this. What about you, Adrian?
Yeah, I will definitely be curious to hear if JJ ever had that this feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and here he is, as if by magic.
Well, hello. No.
But yeah, I mean, have you experienced that, JJ? I mean, is it something that you've experienced? I'm not being funny, and I'm being really honest. You've never experienced it, no?
No, I think that I think that everybody does, because you always either see somebody that either is at a different level than where you are, and you think that, oh, I'm nothing in comparison to that. You see like another business or another person who may be the same level as you by some criteria, maybe age or gender, or by like socioeconomic status.
Yeah.
And you see them at a different point where like, you're like, oh, wow, like they can do this thing. Like maybe they're a way better like technical implementer. They're way better at building revenues. They're way better at communicating. All of those things, you're like, well, and then you just completely discredit everything that you've done to point. You're like, oh yeah, nothing that I've ever done matters, as opposed to, and then you're just measuring the difference between you and the next person. But in actuality, like the top is like infinite. There is no top, so it's kind of hard to hit.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking now. So, for example, if I would be a very, very big company, I'm not sure which company, maybe let's say Coca-Cola, all right, or something like that. If they want to sponsor us, they are free to do it. But anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. There are other brands. There are other brands.
Wink, wink.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if I would come to you and say, JJ, actually, I want you to do my, measurement marketing. We had, I don't know, a very, very big company before doing it, but I want you to do it. And the contract is going to be 10 times more than
Yeah.
whatever you got from your biggest client. That would give you a bit of the imposter syndrome feeling, or?
Oh,
what do you reckon?
100%. Yeah, I would be like, I don't know if I could do this. Like, this is like, even though we might have 100% of the skills and capabilities. It's just that like you're not the like the mindset of being like a big company behind you. Like I've got a few people that I work with.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's one of those things that also a lot of people put up a bigger facade of like, oh yeah, you can fake a lot of things with having like a nice background or like a nice company website with like lots of different pages and things and information. But like at the end of the day, it might just be like five guys who like implement the thing, and I'm like, well, I'm like 1/4 of the way there to 5 guys.
Yeah, no, it's and you're right. I mean, it's a good point as well, Adrian, because I think I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that. It's not always about when you first start out, or that you're branching out, or you've just been made redundant and you've decided to set something up. It's not about that. I mean, I'm not being funny. I get this on a regular basis. Try something new, and then suddenly I'm starting doubting my ability. Yet I will have done these things for other businesses and other business owners and worked for them in essence. So it's funny how that you then go when you're doing it yourself, there's suddenly, it doesn't matter how confident, I'm pretty confident, no matter how confident you are, you just get hit with this sometimes. And you've got these nagging little things going on in your head saying, yeah, but if you mess up or if you do this wrong or you make that mistake, but you don't think about those things in other points of life. But I do think when it comes to being an entrepreneur, you definitely do get that a little bit more than more normally, don't you? I mean, who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Yeah, go, Nicole. Yeah.
No, I think the big thing for me is that coaching is something I'm quite experienced in, but actually the business part of it is really kind of scary because I've never had my own business or run my own business. So I'm kind of learning every day. And what I'm learning about myself is that I've got to tell that imposter to shut up and get back in its box because I need to get things done.
Yeah.
And it's a continuous kind of journey in regard to that. But, at the end of the day, if you want to do something, you've got to take action and go forward, face the fear and carry on.
Yeah. Was it what I'm reading? Was it your notes I was reading? You said you actually name the imposter in you, a name, sort of give it almost a body, so to speak.
I called her Sally. There's a specific reason to call her Sally.
Yeah.
When I left the military, I joined the college as a personal assistant.
Okay.
And I was the principal's assistant. So the lady's name was Sally, and this lady would red pen everything that I created.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, every time I'd get it back and I'd be like, oh God, what now? And then I'd put it back and then I'd get more red pen. And it got to one point where I didn't get the red pen anymore. And I was just like, oh, I've done it. But it was a good kind of learning experience for me. And that's why I've named my imposter Sally, because she taught me that no matter what she threw at me, I'd just keep going and going and going until the time that I'd achieved what I needed to get rid of that red pen.
Yeah. I like it. Listen, if that's if that's a tool that works, then why not use it? But the mindset and preparing yourself is something that comes up time and time again in the podcasts that we do, in the shows that we do. It's not. I mean, some people like to be anti-mindset, so it's them working on other things. But there's always different ways. JJ, I mean, how do you keep yourself going? On more difficult sort of days.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to like narrowing down what it is that you're trying to achieve, both in the interim, like in the short term, like whether that's daily, hourly, or in the longer term, as in a year. Like I have a timer on my computer that I set for every 30 minutes. So I like
Well,
work
you
in
would do.
30-minute blocks.
You measure, my friend, don't you?
So
Yeah,
you're using a Pomodoro technique, I suppose.
exactly. Yeah. Where you like set like a 30-minute block and you work for that amount of time. And if you do have like a more analytical style brain, it's a lot easier to be like, in 5 years, I want to be at this point. You can kind of backtrack out where it's not like at 4 years and 364 days, you're like, well, I got to try right now to be there tomorrow. That's some severe anxiety riddening right there. But if you break it down, if you break it down to like 1 hour a day, it's a lot easier. So I usually find myself in that situation being like, okay, I want to be here, whether that's in business, in like personal relationships or anything. You kind of have to like work backwards and then be content if things go awry and you end up somewhere else, because life's a river and sometimes it doesn't flow the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. What did you call that a second ago, Adrian?
Pomodoro technique.
The Pomodoro technique. Because I've heard about this. What's the Pomodoro technique? Do you know what that is, Nicole?
No.
Yeah. But it's basically you set a timer. JJ said he's using a 30 minutes timer. You can set that 15 minutes or actually it was I think it was 10 minutes of break at every 30 minutes worked, something like that. JJ, I'm not sure how you do it, but you basically set out, you work blocks of time and then you take a quarter of it or something like that, or third of it as a break after that, just to give your brain some time to rest, right? It doesn't work for everyone though. Some people, because when they get into the flow, they stay there for maybe hours, or at least an hour, 2 hours. It just depends on what type of person you are. But I think especially when you do very analytical stuff like JJ does, it's almost like a must.
Yeah, I quite like the sound of that. I think I've become a bit. I've been very creative recently. Now becoming very over analytical, as you know, Adrian. And I think maybe I need to chunk my day down into doing things like that. Do you do stuff like that, Nicole? Do you sort of chunk yourself down and sort of work like that, or are you just you get your head down and that's it? You do it.
It's a mixture, really. I mean, whatever the activity is, I allocate the time to it. If I'm creating, generally I allow for a little bit more flex because I'm also learning at the same time. So it's usually a couple of hours on most activities that I do, but I'm not deep diving into data and, like JJ does. I mean, I'd only want to do half an hour of that and then I'd be like exhausted. I'd need a coffee.
Hey, well, listen, when we spoke about this earlier, and Adrian mentioned, Nicole, you've got a new website recently, right?
Yeah.
So listen. So we're not going to put you on the spot here. Well, I suppose we are a little bit, really, but you're all about measurement. You're definitely, from where I see it, JJ is very much about getting your messaging right. Obviously, your branding's got to be right. The way that the site works has got to be right, but also you're measuring what works and also what doesn't as well, right? So you're being really drilling down massively into the analytics. What would be your advice for somebody that is, has changed their industry and their work life and everything? And there's a lot of people out there, so this is going to be important for a lot of people as well. And obviously, Nicole's here, so she can take full advantage of this. But in that instance, what do you think is the easiest way of getting something across, to get somebody to think about how they need to put themselves out there on a website that's going to be effective and passion or creativity or whatever? You know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I think that the easiest way is to just define the stages. Like we use 5 stages for most of ours. So like that goes like aware, engage, initiate, convert, and then amplify. But like for most smaller like businesses that are kind of just starting out, you can just go with aware, engage, and convert. And so the easiest thing to do is in your brain, or even on a piece of paper or on your website, is how does someone become aware that you even exist in the world, right? Like you might say like, I'm going to go on podcasts and be on one every single day for an entire like 6 months, right? You're going to get on the 180 podcasts. And then you can do the math and figure out, okay, this many people, like half the listeners might be aware that I even exist in the world. So then you would now have this number of, let's say, 10,000 people even know you exist. Then you need to say like engage. How does someone engage with you? Do you have a blog that you publish that people could read? Do you have your own podcast that people could get to know you more often, like getting to know your personality, what you do, how you do it?
Yeah.
Or maybe you have videos, like you do YouTube videos every day or every week of talking about things. So like those are some of the more general examples. And then the last stage would be then convert, right? So that's like people submitting lead forms. It could even be, for example, if you are a very big blog heavy person, it could be someone reading 90% of your article. That can be a conversion. And you're like, okay, of everybody who reads 90%, now I know that like those people know this topic that I've written about. They know my voice. They understand me. Yeah. So I think looking at those like 3 chunks of aware, engage, and convert, and just defining them on a piece of paper, you can start with tracking that just on an Excel spreadsheet to start out with, of how many people you assume do that. And then every month kind of work on that. And after a certain amount of time, you want to dive into like getting it automated through analytics and through different like protocols and things like that. But that's like the big swatch of like, if you can get anything, if you're creative or a consultant or anything, just like those 3 steps, and how do people move through them?
Yeah, that makes sense, Adrian, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was curious. So, for example, what type of data you should look for, or what you can get, let's say, for people that don't know about Google Tag Manager and things like that too much. What type of data do you get? Do you get sex, age bracket, some interest, location, what mobile device they use? What do you get there? What do they look for?
Yeah, with that, you can kind of, it just depends on the platform. Let's just take Google Analytics, for example. There's a demographic function. So if someone chooses to opt in to share their demographic information to Google,
right,
that you can then get that. And it's all anonymous. That's the one thing that everyone knows. It's not like I'm saying like Elliot Brown, like here's like he's male, like this age, this location. Like you don't know who the person is. You have an anonymous person that is this like avatar.
Yeah.
But you can say like the big demographic ones are usually like age, gender, and location. And you can usually get to about a city is about the most geographical like drill down you can get. So that's like the gist. And I think that the biggest thing people often do is they start looking at like, oh, what is this, male or female? And like in reality, it doesn't really matter that much unless you have a hyper specific male or hyper specific female thing.
Product or service.
Yeah.
I mean, Nicole, when you came to do your website, did you do it yourself? Did you have somebody do it for you?
I did it jointly with someone.
And did you think about those things? Are they the sort of 3 things you thought of, or did you? Because I'm curious, because listen, I've definitely fucked up a couple of sites myself by not instructing somebody correctly, not being asked the right questions. Actually, that's where the first thing was. I wasn't asked the right questions, and I didn't ask myself the right questions either. So I'm curious, Nicole, and listen, there's nobody judging here. I'm just genuinely curious, because it's all fresh to you as well, isn't it?
It's education for Nicole as well. So that's why now it's a free lesson for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because you know kind of what you want, but you just can't do it. So what I did was I worked with a lady that was very, very effective and understood the kind of message that I wanted to give.
Okay, cool.
So it was 2-3 hours together on a couple of occasions, so that we could make sure that the message was quite clear and that it kind of met what I was expecting, but with her flair and the ability to do it correctly.
Yeah.
Because I've already effed up one of my previous ones. So, and that was when I did it alone. And then I was like, no, I've got to get someone to help me out because this is just too much.
So, and this is one thing I'm going to ask, because this is often the case. You thought about the message you want to get out there, but did you consider the ideal person that you wanted to coach or work with, for example? And so you sort of looked at it from their point of view as well.
Yeah, you're perfect customer, basically.
Sorry?
I said you're perfect customer, basically. You're exactly the person that you want to go after.
Yeah. it is tailored towards females. It's all about empowering those that are already potentially quite successful, but just want to take it to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of the stuff is targeted towards that audience, the colours, the pictures, you know, it's generally aimed at that ideal client.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you had thought about that. That's good.
Yeah, so, and I'm curious if you'd have any questions for JJ. It's
My one was, JJ, are you free? Are you free to do a kind of measure for me in terms of measuring my stuff? And would it be a freebie because we're guests together? You know, I'm just being cheap.
That's a good one.
I will answer for JJ. Definitely no freebies. Yeah, I know that already.
No, it's all right. But is it what you do, JJ? Is it kind of a 360 review of the business for the customer from the very, very start all the way to the end? In terms of then, are they the people that then refer, you know, you on to other clients? Is that what you do? You take your clients on a journey from the start to the end and advise them throughout?
Yeah, the companies that we work with either have an identified like business model where they know like, hey, we publish blogs, for example. That's what we do. We're gaming the SEO system, trying to get to the top of Google. And so we look at that. Usually people will have 1 or 2 channels going, and we will say like analyze the entire like journey from that piece. But then like each step, right? If you're a blog, like how many people are actually reaching the bottom, right? If you're a YouTube centric, like say you post videos of whatever your product, service, review.
Sorry to stop you here, but just take Nicole's example. The other companies, just take Nicole's example. She's a fresh person. She doesn't have a YouTube channel. I don't think you have one. So she's quite basic. Can you help people who are in that stage? Or
usually like it might just be like a consultation call of like saying, here's some resources you can go figure out. Just because it doesn't make sense if you're moving, like even if we moved revenue 10%, like it doesn't make moving $1,000 10% is only $100. But if moving $1 million 10% is a significant amount. So that's the only reason. It doesn't normally make economic sense to optimize something when there isn't a lot to move.
Of course. So somebody that's established that then wants to move on to the next, the sort of the next level is where your forte is, JJ.
Yeah, that and also if people don't have like predictability in their business, if they don't know what is going to happen next month and they're in a constant state of fear, we kind of establish some baselines and it says like, hey, what if we doubled blog posts? Then next month you could kind of say like, we might expect double traffic, and it's like that didn't work out, so like let's try something else. So that's kind of where we fit in.
Yeah. And the reason why I stopped you there, Gigi, is just because I've seen that from my personal experience that, you know, you have, so no offense, Nicole, but you're small customers. You're just at the beginning of your journey. You don't have an audience yet. You don't have like making a good amount of money or, you know, having a good revenue, not necessarily profit. And it's completely different from bigger customers, or let's say, I don't know, someone that's a very well-known coach for things, and that's why you would adopt completely different tactics. They're not similar at all. And also just because someone that's at the beginning and it is quite small, they don't understand the things that need to be done, or maybe it's difficult for you to understand that actually you need to spend maybe £10,000 per month, because you probably don't have them. Same like I don't have them to spend them on some things. And that's why I stopped JJ, just because I know they are very, very different strategies.
Yeah. And it makes sense, and that's not belittling your business. You know, I firmly believe you do what you do, Nicole, and with your experience, your background, and your unique way, that there's no reason why you can't be up and above most of the coaches out there. That's for sure, because there's a lot of people that don't know what they're doing. They don't have your experience, and there's very few people that will have your experience. That's the thing that you focus on. That's definitely where you're going to get your interest, because it's way more accepted these days just to have been in prison. But the whole world and the things we see on television sort of gives you an insight. And so people are intrigued, if anything else. And what you can learn from that, I think, would be a really important and interesting path to go down with your business. From my point of view, anyway, that would be pretty cool. Well, listen, I think we've all learnt a lot this evening that we can all pivot together on these things. Definitely from measuring success and non-success with marketing. I think we've definitely picked up some stuff there. And Nicole, listen, definitely a few lessons to be learned from your experiences as well. Adrian, what have you picked up from this evening from these wonderful extraordinaire guests? Extraordinaire.
I like this format, and that's why I really liked it, and that's why when I've asked JJ if he can please talk about exactly like Nicole's situations, because I think most of our audience or guests and stuff, they're gonna be like at the beginning of the journey or somewhere not that high right now, and we want to help because that's the majority of the people in the world, not the ones at the top, and we want to help them to actually grow and make things better. And I've learned loads of things, especially about the measurements, and then imposter syndrome. It just confirmed to me that all of us have it. We just need to believe more in ourselves and just do it.
Yeah, definitely. Nicole, what's been your takeaway from this evening?
To be honest, it's seeing things from a different point of view from JJ, because obviously he's working with those that are already scaled their business and branching out. So it's kind of nice to see where you could actually end up being and employing JJ to fix the things for you. So that'll be my 5-year plan, JJ. I'll get you details so that when I'm at that point, you can help me out if I get stuck.
Awesome.
Definitely. And JJ, what's your takeaway? What have you picked up that you can help yourself to pivot from the show?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of validation in that, like, everybody does have some sort of other person in themselves that always is questioning whether or not what they're doing is valid or what they're doing is worth what you think it's worth to somebody else. I think that's just something that's really, really satisfying to talk to other people at every point of business and every point of life to say, like, hey, what do you struggle with? Because that's something that no one really talks about publicly because there's no forum to do so. It's not like you're like, hey, on the street corner, like, everybody, like, I'm not secure in this one specific thing. Like, it's not like something that you just yell out on the street corner. So it's really nice to have that conversation.
Yeah, good. And excellent.
Sorry, I'm just curious now, JJ, after I've asked you if I be Coca-Cola and ask you to do my things for me, if you would prepare that scenario in your mind in case that it happens, you already have the answer for that and overcome the imposter syndrome straight away.
Yeah, I'll work on that. That's a good idea.
Well, listen, we just got one more comment as well. Nicola Barrett saying good evening, everyone. Hi, Nicola. Thanks for joining and watching the show and joining us on the show. Well, listen, guys, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us this evening or this afternoon or morning or wherever it is you are. JJ, definitely got more sunshine than we've got here in the UK and in Europe. Yes, it's definitely dark where Nicole is. Adrian, it's getting close to 9 o'clock now in the evening.
10 p.m. Yeah, 10 p.m. But still, it's very warm here. There were 29 degrees today, so yeah.
And JJ, what time is it there? You got to be early afternoon, late morning?
It is noon.
Noon. Well, you've got the rest of your day. Have an amazing day as well. Nicole, have a great evening. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers, guys.
And stay there. We're going to take you off. Go into the green room. We'll be back with you in a moment. All right?
Just a second. Don't take them off. Where can people find you guys? Because we haven't.
Dearie me. How bad? My bad.
So, Nicole, maybe where can people find you, if you don't mind?
I'm on Instagram, and it's under LC Anonymous Coaching.
LC Anonymous. Okay, cool.
Okay, cool.
And
JJ?
You can find mediaauthentic.com. So that's the word media and authentic. And you can find free resources and blogs and information to reach me there.
Good stuff. Drop a link in the comments, guys. On this. So if you drop those in the comments, we'll make sure that gets posted out as well. If you want to catch this as an audio podcast, then we'll keep an eye out over the next week or so to let you know we have got a whole series of these that we've done so far. They're being turned into audio podcasts. They're soon going to be go up on Essex Business Radio, which you can catch on the Essex Business Radio app, available at all good app stores. We've got those links. We're going to drop those in. Well, listen, thanks very much, guys. Thanks for joining us. We're going to drop you into the green room and we'll have a quick chat when we come off air. So we'll see you in a moment.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Well, I think that went very well this evening, Adrian. What do you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. So yeah.
Oh, good. Good.
I think the guest just left a comment, but I think we're going to put them after that probably.
Yeah. We'll drop those in afterwards. We can probably do those now. I don't know why, but I'm getting a very slow response on my keyboard. I think there may be a bit of an issue going on today.
I will do it. So I've done it now.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. That says Media Authentic. So the links are there. Well, listen, we are going to be doing more shows just like this. If you like the format, then let us know, because it's all about your experience, you who is listening or watching or viewing, however you're taking this information in. We want to make this the best show we can, so we're always looking at tweaking it. We do want to be a bit renegade. We're not going to script it, guys, but we do want to make it the best show we possibly can for you guys as the viewers and listeners. So if you've got any ideas, or if there's anybody you want to get on the show, in particular any guests, but subject matters, we really want to cover subject matters in shows as well. This is proving to work really, really well. I think our guests today enjoyed the sort of the bounce between everybody, and I think that worked really well. Adrian, we definitely want to have subject matters as well as guest ideas coming from our listeners and viewers, don't we?
Oh, yeah, exactly. We do this for them, mainly. So I even got more ideas, after this show tonight about a few other things. So we're gonna take them offline and implement them as soon as possible.
Good stuff. I like it. We're all getting creative. It's exciting stuff. Well, listen, if you want to know more about what's going on Essex Business Radio, keep an eye out on our social media, which is Essex Business Radio, everywhere other than Pinterest. And what was the other one? Oh, TikTok. Yeah, we haven't been on there. Just me on TikTok at the moment. It's Essex Biz Radio on Twitter. But make sure you follow us on Facebook or on YouTube and subscribe and smash the like button, or whatever it is that you need to do to get alerted when the show comes on. 7 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday evenings moving forward. We've got some great guests coming on, haven't we?
Exactly.
Good. Well, listen, look out for tomorrow. We're gonna sign off for now because we've taken up more than enough of your time. We hope you've found something pivotal to take away from the show. Let us know what it is. If you watch this live in future, give us some loves, give us some thumbs up. And if you're watching us on a replay afterwards, then put #replay. Let us know you're watching. Thanks very much. This has been the Pivotal Podspective with myself, Elliot Brown, and
Adrian Durbantu.
Big love to you all. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are. I'm going to say ciao for now.
Brown cow.